Hey guys, welcome back to another Sunday service. Another beautiful Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. Uh, let's get an F in the chat right now for all our moms out there. Let's hear it from the moms. So today I'm gonna go from what I said in my Daniel video. It's my favorite book of the Bible, Acts. So today, I'm gonna dive into the story of Saul of Tarsus, and that is in Acts 9. And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, he came near to Damascus, and suddenly there shone round about him a light from heaven. So in these 3 verses to start off the chapter, we find out a few things. We see that Saul is a persecutor of the church, really, and he's sent on a mission to Damascus to bring either men or women, whatever they may be, bound back to Jerusalem in order to kind of stunt the growth of the church. And then in verse 3, we read that when he was near to Damascus, when he got close to the entrance of the city, a light fell around him, and we find out later what that means. So we continue onward with verse 4. And he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Rise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice but seeing no man. The people that were traveling with Saul when this happened couldn't see what was going on in the light that surrounded Saul, but they heard a voice. This voice, of course, said, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And upon digging, he learns that it's the voice of Jesus. And Jesus says that Saul will go to Damascus and await assignment there. And Saul arose from the earth. When his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, neither did eat nor drink. So we learn that this bright light that fell around Saul blinded him, and he was led into Damascus by the people traveling with him. And then, of course, everyone already knows the end of this story. Saul forsook his former life and became Paul, and he immediately started preaching. Instead of destroying the faith as he set out to do, he will become Paul, which is the new man that worked for God, and he will help to build the faith. Saul left behind his Jewish friends to be with hated believers, and we can see earlier that Saul had nothing but disdain for Christians, and he now calls them brothers. My main point here is that with God's power, nobody is too far gone to be saved. Here we read that Saul was actively trying to destroy the faith. He was on his way to hurt it more. But God didn't look at Saul and be like, oh, this story is already written, this case closed. But instead, he used his power to bring Saul to his knees. The notorious Saul of Tarsus. He brought him to his knees. He made him the greatest missionary that the church has ever known. All throughout Paul's writings, we see that he's not afraid to share the story of his testimony. It's in 1 Corinthians, Galatians, Romans. It's all over the place. But I would like to take you to 1 Corinthians 15, verse 10. But by the grace of God, I am what I am, and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. In this verse we read that once Paul was converted, he devoted his whole life to Christ, spreading the message of truth. God knew everything in Saul's past. There was no hiding who he was or what he did. We see later that, I'm sure I'll get to it in a few weeks. We see later that the apostle that was going to train Saul knew who he was and didn't want to do that, didn't want to risk it, didn't want to raise him up. But God knowing this, chose Saul. So you should take this and know that if it's in God's plan, by his amazing grace, he's able to save whoever he needs to. In Acts chapter 9, in this conversion on the road to Damascus, Saul died, the old man, he's gone, and it's Paul who lives, and Christ who lives in Paul. And then, of course, we see that Saul doesn't wait. Right after he was found, he started his mission work. And all Christians need to be like Paul. We need to follow that example. Okay, so I feel like that was a little bit shorter than it normally is, but I really liked Acts 9, and I wanted to share that. I think it went pretty well. I'll know for sure when I watch this back. So yeah, I hope you guys can see why I like Acts so much. At least one part. I really want to get to Ananias, and you guys might not know who that is, and that's kind of the point. So I really want to get there, but I don't know. There are a few things that I might want to talk about next week, so we'll see how it cheeks out. So that being said, I'll pray for us. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, the goodness of showing us and all the time we get to spend together. Thank you for all the mothers out there. We love all of them. We love everything they do for us. I pray that we could read Saul's story, this conversion of Saul to Paul, and we can see that nobody is too far gone to be saved, and God's grace can work in anybody. uh, anyone. It doesn't matter who they are, what they've done, or what they've said. Because of this, let us never lose hope, even if there's that one person that you would really like to see saved. That just doesn't respond to it. Let us see that you and your power can work in them. And the other point I made, which is like Paul, we should never wait to start our mission work. Paul was saved on the road to Damascus, and then once he regained his sight, he was trained in their word and started preaching right away. Went out there and started sharing the truth of the gospel. Let us all strive to be like Paul. I pray these things in your heavenly name. Amen. Alright. I think that makes 8 or 9 of these videos, so let me know if you're enjoying them. I'll see you guys next Sunday. Thanks for watching. Bye. Love you.